We do have one other member coming. The first matter to look at is the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any comments, corrections, or motions?
Move adoption or approval or whatever.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. The next is a zoning text amendment and a zoning map amendment. We might as well take them together. And that's a petition by Edgemark Development for those changes. I think staff has the report.
Yes, staff recommendation related to this letter is we would recommend that the commission grant the continuance for both the text and map amendment, the request being until Wednesday, March 14th, which is your next regularly scheduled meeting. We are in contact with the applicant and have been on multiple occasions the last 48 hours, but we have nothing specific to report at this time.
I appreciate your getting the word out to interested parties about this request so that 200 people didn't have to come here tonight, or maybe only 100. Is there any discussion of this request? Is there a motion to commence and continue the hearing on the zoning text amendment described in Agenda Item 3 and the zoning map amendment described in Agenda Item 4?
So moved.
And that would be to March 14th, I think you said, at 7 p.m.
I would be able to attend.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. This hearing is commenced and continued to March 14th, 7 p.m. in this building. The next item on the agenda is the work plan.
Who are they? Neighbors?
Probably.
Yeah. Interested people.
Good evening.
They were here at the other.
Craig Sklenar, General Planner. We had a meeting last Wednesday. I think those that showed up and those that provided information. And I provided a document for you tonight. It should be in front of you, a rough draft of those goals and preliminary objectives for your work plan itself.
Since only 2 of us of the 5 were here last week, I might clarify a few of the pieces for you and make a suggestion. I think our first goal should be expeditiously to conduct hearings, and make recommendations on references from the City Council, from the staff, and on proposed zoning amendments and planned unit developments. I think that should be number 1. And on the resources, it might list available commission time, because I think that's our top priority, and it belongs in a work plan. Mm-hmm. And I think the constraint that we need to mention is the available commission time. That's sort of what I thought we might want to add. And the time frame would have to say something like expeditious conduct of hearings and recommendations, exact time frame unknown, because the Plan Commission is responding to requests from elsewhere. Sort of like a law department that is asked, tell me how many lawsuits you're going to defend next year. And how long it will take? Having been asked that question, it's unknowable.
Question.
Scott, what you have just described is the normal course of requests from
Yeah.
outside?
Yeah,
So what you're saying is the first business is to satisfy everybody out there?
right.
Okay.
And I think that's the primary duty of
Yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah.
commission.
Thank you.
I thought the scheme for the work plan doesn't contemplate a commission that conducts hearings, but I thought we'd just fit it in.
The first goal that I provided on there, is that worded in an appropriate manner, or would you
I think
rather?
it's terrific,
Okay.
but it becomes, I'd suggest it becomes a second goal. The first one is to respond to, conduct hearings and respond, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Scott, if we get input on what may or be coming in front of us earlier, then perhaps the through time could be shortened.
By input, you mean?
If we get some input, say, from the Planning and Review Commission of something that might be coming our way, I don't know if, I'm not sure exactly what the steps are.
Do you want to describe the steps from when people file applications to when they're hearings?
Right. Let's start with plan development. Typically, there are a variety of meetings that are occurred, potentially a neighborhood meeting, depending if the alderman would request that. There are a couple internal meetings with city staff to go over public works issues, zoning issues, zoning analysis, et cetera. There's a preliminary concept meeting at the Site Plan and Appearance Review Committee, which technically Chairman Peters can attend at any. He's our representative for Spark itself. And then from there, there's a meeting here at Plan Commission. And that's when we provide with you a staff report and our own staff recommendation, including a matrix of how the plan development meets the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan itself. That would also include your binder for that, which internally we are trying to make sure is more clear and concise for every application that comes through concerning that. So if from there, after you have your hearing, there's of course a hearing at a meeting at Planning and Development Committee of the City Council for introduction, and then full adoption 2 weeks after that at City Council.
At the Spark meeting, all the different relevant departments provide the applicant with technical comments on the size of the pipes and the requirements for drainage and the traffic issues that they see. And then sometime, I think probably usually, changes are made to accommodate those kinds of technical issues. And sometimes the applicant can do that quickly and sometimes less quickly.
Things like a text and map amendment, or text amendment specifically for, would go first to the Zoning Committee of the Plan Commission. And those are either, like the case of Edgemark, a applicant, of a property owner applicant has requested a text amendment, or they are council recommendations or staff review as well. That is worked out at committee, as you know, and then we'll provide a detailed staff memo with recommendation to Plan Commission itself. What I would recommend is potentially, after Zoning Committee has met, if there's enough time, to provide a report, a summary report of what that committee had decided upon and what would potentially be brought to Plan Commission prior to that. So those are kind of our two methodologies.
Any comments or suggestions on those matters?
So goal 1 now has 2 work items. One is codify the rules, and the other is do the work.
Codify the rules is the second one.
I was going to make goal,
Oh, one.
our usual response and hearings, a separate goal, because it's mostly what we do.
Would you strike codify rules?
No, I'd leave those there too.
Yeah, okay. As part of goal 1?
Yeah.
And logically, you do the, okay, I see. The order doesn't matter.
And we've actually already finished we've finished codifying the rules with the exception of one question which legal has to get back to us on. And we adopted them. I think they're in effect. Except for one question that we need to hear about.
Oh.
But we put it here in the interest of looking productive. Goal 2 has to do with looking at, there have been a number of neighborhood plans adopted and some other related ordinances, such as ordinances relating to sustainability. And those may or may not be consistent with what's in the comprehensive plan. And in any case, their status is unclear unless they are incorporated either by reference or otherwise into the comprehensive plan. So it makes sense to try and do that. I think your time frame is probably reasonable.
We were discussing this internally this week and felt that we may be able to push that up probably to end of second, middle of third quarter of this year.
That's a good time frame.
So I tentatively put July 2012 instead of end of 2012.
Yeah. At least we can get through the neighborhood plans, and then the others, they're already in effect. Their status is more clear, so the timing is not as crucial.
Question.
Yeah.
Are the neighborhood plans now incorporated by reference?
They are not. That's the...
They've been adopted
Okay.
by the council, but not the relationship between them and the comprehensive plan is not so clear, and the status of freestanding neighborhood plans is not so clear under Illinois law.
Well, when you say end of 2012 or earlier, are you assuming the technical work, or are you assuming whatever process we have to go through to do a incorporation?
Both.
Oh, okay.
And maybe you need little asterisks for the time frame because it'll all depend on the other things that come before us. And it's hard to predict.
So maybe it's part of the first goal of doing conduct hearings on a timely basis.
Well,
And we have to say it's,
Yeah.
take priority over anything else
Yeah.
that we're doing.
we can put an asterisk in.
They take precedence over anything else.
And 2.2 is part of the same process.
Same endpoint? Or is the endpoint floating at this point?
If I could respond, I think in terms of incorporating the already adopted neighborhood plans and area plans, we think certainly that could happen sooner than the end of the year. And so Craig's suggestion of the end of July for that seems reasonable. Item 2.2 is more complicated and involves more technical work, so that may be reasonable to have as the end of the year, sooner if possible. So I would make a distinction between those two.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
But also, there are the other ordinances that you might want a longer time on, with the neighborhood plans being sooner. I'm not sure you'd want to incorporate them if they're not consistent. Questions?
I just have a question on 2.1 and 2.2. So 2.1, the task is to review old plans, or plans since 1999, cross-reference with the comprehensive general plan, and then, sorry, and then integrate them into the comprehensive plan?
I think what we need to do is review what items would need to be integrated versus a reference tie-in point by ordinance, and that's part of that analysis is seeing where we can amend accordingly.
So in a nutshell, we're looking to take out items out of the comprehensive plan that don't need to be there anymore.
I think
That would be
That one
2.2.
that's a piece of it.
That's a piece of it,
But the other piece, for example, we just did a downtown plan.
right?
So the statute provides for comprehensive plans, not neighborhood and downtown plans, and to get it the appropriate status so that the courts will look for consistency, we'd want to incorporate it. But before we incorporate it, we might want to look and see if it is consistent with what was in the comp plan 10 years ago.
Okay.
That was sort of what I
Okay.
was thinking we needed to do.
Okay. I just was looking for clarification, just to understand it. I think I do.
And if we discover that one of the adopted small area plans is not consistent with the comprehensive plan?
I think
I'm not assuming we're going to discover that, but,
you might as well assume we're going to discover something there,
okay.
because some of them are much newer, and
I would-
conditions have changed.
I would assume that would be part of the activities of 2.2,
Okay.
identifying those areas that conflict with each other.
Then we make recommendations.
Then we have to decide which gets changed.
Yeah,
Correct.
what to recommend.
Got it. Thank you.
And then we have to conduct hearing before we make recommendations.
That's why I was wondering about the time frame.
And the third one has to do with a transit-oriented development. We have these things that look like transit-oriented development, but there are more opportunities in the vicinity of the stations, and we might look at how that might work consistent with the neighborhoods, people's preferences, and the more recent theories relating to transit-oriented development.
Would like to clarify item 3.1 was to, again, identify regulations or policies that may need to be revised to better TOD throughout Evanston, and then push those recommendations, depending if they are text amendments or map amendments to the zoning code or revisions to the comprehensive plan, et cetera. That's what I was trying to say in the action plan. And then item 3.2 should say station area land use planning, not actual station design or station site planning. Which we received $100,000 from the RTA to conduct a TOD study at the main station for Metro and CTA, which will be occurring this year. So we can look to that as a best case example of how we may want to proceed forward as well.
The all but one of the council members has ranked economic development at the top of their list of priorities. One thought the ranking exercise was silly, so he didn't rank. And goal 4 relates to looking at areas to see whether there are some where there's increased development possible, with the eye toward seeing if the regulations would be consistent with increased development and not consistent with the kind of development that would underuse the sites. That's sort of what I was thinking. And I don't know if we have any of those, but I thought if we're talking about trying to increase economic development with tax-paying uses, it would make sense to sort of inventory what's out there, think about areas where it's possible, and look at our regulations to see if it promotes development or hinders it. And I think we need a longer time frame. It might be, it's a 2-year program, so it might be a 2-year project. As the others, they're time consuming. That makes sense?
Question. Have we covered all the small areas that we think we need to cover, or are there some small areas out there that are waiting?
In terms of?
In terms of doing local area plans.
Well, let me summarize the plans that we've done since 2007. The West Evanston plan basically was the Dodge Avenue corridor from about Greenleaf north to the alley just north of Church Street. In many ways, all that went all the way to Simpson. It also included the tax increment financing district that stretches along the old Mayfair right-of-way that was sold off to adjoining property owners. So it's kind of creates a triangle with Dodge, if you will, more or less. And then the Central Street Master Plan was done shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
And that stretched all the way from Ridge on the east to city limits on the west, basically. Not quite, but close. And then the downtown plan, which Chairman had mentioned earlier, was the most recent plan, and that was very heavily worked through this body. It was really this body's work. I mean, all these plans were, but that one was more front and center for this board. There are areas that could benefit from small area planning. The economic development staff, the expanded economic development staff is working on that for areas like Foster near the L station, which is an area that's been underutilized for some time. And different staff groups are, again, planning groups. Sue Gutterly, the neighborhood planner, is working on what we're calling the West End area, which is, it's their own select name, which is the area that runs from Dempster south along Hartree down to Main Street and incorporates all those industrial uses. More there than many people think, but they've become very, very active over the last year and a half and have their own organization, doing their own planning and programming as well, along with city assistance. But there probably are other areas that need additional attention. I shouldn't leave out Howard Street, which has been the subject of many plans over the years. A good chunk of Howard Street, east of Ridge, all the way really to the L tracks, is a tax increment financing district. There was a lot of planning done around that. There also was an area plan, not to the scale of Central Street or West Evanston, that was done probably 10, 12 years ago. And in addition, the economic development staff has been very active down there in terms of acquisition of property and more recently attracting a theater group.
Now, I asked at the last meeting, but there were only three of us. For the open-ended question, do you have other things that should be on the list? So with the suggestions we made, is this satisfactory to the commissioners that are here?
I think so.
You'll see a final draft form of this. It probably won't be like this. It'll be more narrative in nature and more report form that Chairman Peters would use for his presentation April 2nd to the Rules Committee. You'll see that at the March meeting.
Is there anything else that we need to do with respect to the work plan? Hearing no suggestions, we go to committee reports. Are there any committees that wish to report? Hearing no committee reports, we come to an item called adjournment. Is there anyone who wishes to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
No discussion.
In record time, the Plan Commission is concluded at 7:31.
Time of death.
Wish we could bank that time.